All right. Well, thank you both for being here. This is going to be a really, really, really short interview, very informal. Just for those that don't know that are watching this, I am Mish, and I am the Director of Operations for Y12SR. I have Jim and Amy with me, and they are going to introduce themselves and answer a couple questions for us.
Great. Now, I'm Jim.
Sounds good.
And I'm Jim. I'm a Y12SR space holder here in Indianapolis.
And well, so am I. And we started this adventure together.
Yay, good stuff. And then we can maybe we'll have Jim go first, and then Amy, you follow with the answers to the questions, if that works for you guys.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. If you're willing, would you please briefly share how addiction has affected your life and some of your experience in recovery?
It affected every aspect. I mean, it's not like you can reach down and take addiction out and just set it aside and have everything else be not affected. I mean, addiction, I think in my case, being someone who did suffer from substance abuse and particularly also codependency, I think the root of a lot of my addiction comes from my codependency. It impacted every single aspect of my personality, of my life. And one of the things that I like to talk about is the best definition of sobriety that I ever heard was either establishing or reestablishing a relationship with yourself. And so my journey in recovery has been an attempt to establish a relationship with myself, to figure out who I am, trying to get this stuff cleared out of the way and get into all those aspects of my life that addiction and codependency had kind of like seeped into, and trying to understand myself better and kind of create that real relationship with the person that I am, understand who I am moving forward. It's always a work in progress, but it's been good when I finally managed to get on the right path with it. It's been a very positive experience.
Thank you. Amy?
Well, let's see. Growing up, with issues surrounding substance abuse and codependency, what that created was avidya, literally what's called avidya in yoga, and the inability to see what was in front of me, which was another issue in my, relationship it was right in front of me. I couldn't see it. I grew up children of alcoholics, and then I was unable to literally recognize it as a problem because I grew up with the greatest generation of all was also it was like probably the most alcoholic generation. Called them the martini generation. That just laid out, between that and the codependency involved in that, laid out this inability to see, and the codependency and inability to cope, and a tendency to think that I was the root of that problem. I had to fix it. I had to manage it. And it was probably that it was my fault as well.
It amazes me, no matter how we come into this, our stories all sound so similar. Would you please share a bit about your introduction to yoga and when or how you recognized that yoga was a support to recovery?
I'm going to go ahead and start with that one, actually. Okay, so I have a pretty long history with this, I think. My dad, who was a World War II vet and recently passed away, I believe he self-medicated in two ways. One was not good, and the other one was yoga and meditation. So I was exposed to both. And I think that it made it real and complex, and in some ways maybe attracted me because I saw that it was doing something for him, even though it didn't solve all the problems, but it was helping him cope with a fair amount of them. So it was kind of like in the family, in the blood. And I saw some, did transcendental meditation, and it was pretty. He did some pretty wacky styles of yoga as well, so it was a bit crazy too. And exposed a little bit in high school, and then um, through a place called Riverlight Yoga in Indianapolis, looking out over the White River and having a community. So the sense of community came there. I later did Iyengar with the alignment and the rigor. I really wasn't getting the spiritual aspect at that point. And then doing a training at City Yoga in Indianapolis, very much connected with Nikki, with Y12SR, and then also like Rolf Gates, and just like everything kind of came together.
Yeah, I mean, I think Amy and I being basically the same age, I think we kind of grew up in a time when yoga was really kind of starting to become a thing in the United States. I remember Lilas Yoga and You on PBS. And so I knew that this thing existed, and I kind of knew what it was, but I never really got involved with it at all growing up. And it wasn't really until I met Amy and we had started our relationship and our journey together that she brought me into yoga classes, I think really for the first time, as she said, at Riverlight here in Indianapolis. And it was, and that was at a time before I had actually begun my journey on sobriety. And so I liked the aspect of yoga that was allowing me to do that level of